He had everything: a home, a family, a father who would do anything for him. But sometimes, everything isn't enough. What happens when you leave behind the people who love you most? What happens when the life you chased becomes a nightmare you can't escape? And what happens when you finally find the courage to turn around, but you're not sure anyone will be waiting? This is a story about mistakes, about consequences, about hitting the very bottom. But more than anything, this is a story about a father who did something no one expected, something that will stay with you long after the story ends. One son who walked away. One father who never stopped watching the road, and one moment that will change how you see love forever. Stay with us until the end, because the final scene carries a message that every heart needs to hear, whether you're 7 or 70. If stories that touch the soul are what you're looking for.
African Stories by Ifeanyi God.
Now, let's begin. The night the younger son turned 7, his father carried him to the rooftop and taught him to count the stars.
When you feel lost, look up. The same stars that watched over your grandfather watch over you. They will always lead you home.
The boy leaned into his father's chest and tried to count. He made it to 43 before sleep took him. The father held him there until dawn, unwilling to let go of the moment. That was 11 years ago. The estate still stretched across the hills of Judea. Olive groves, vineyards, wheat fields golden under the sun. A good land, a blessed land. But the house felt different now, quieter. The mother had been gone for 16 years, taken by fever when the youngest was still learning to walk. The father had buried his grief in the soil and poured his love into raising 2 boys alone. The elder son grew into the land itself. He worked beside his father from dawn until dusk, steady and silent. He did not climb to the rooftop. He did not count stars. The earth beneath his feet was enough for him. The younger son was different. He had his mother's eyes, always searching, always looking past the horizon. While his brother worked the fields, he wandered to the hill where the road began. He watched merchants pass with stories of distant cities. He stayed on the rooftop long after his father had gone to bed. The father noticed. He always noticed. One evening, he found his younger son staring at the western sky, where the sun bled into colors he could not name.
Still counting stars?
Counting places I've never seen.
The father's heart tightened. He recognized that restlessness. He had seen it in the boy's mother, too, before she learned to call this place home. He placed a hand on his son's shoulder. It would not be enough to make him stay.
An unthinkable request came 3 days later. The father sat in the courtyard, mending a fishing net the way he had done 1,000 times before. The morning was quiet, ordinary. The elder son worked in the distant fields. Birds sang from the olive trees. The younger son's shadow fell across the stones.
Father, I need to speak with you.
The father looked up and smiled, but something in his son's voice made the smile fade.
I want my share of the inheritance. Now!
The father's hands stopped moving. The net slipped from his fingers. Inheritance was given when a father died. To ask for it now, while the father still breathed, was to say something no son should ever say. I wish you were gone. I cannot wait for you to die. Give me what is mine so I can leave. The father understood. Every word, every weight. He did not speak. He could not speak. He simply looked at his son, the boy he had taught to count stars, the boy whose laughter had once filled this silent house.
Do you know what you are asking me?
The son's jaw tightened. He stared at the ground. Then the son answered, "I know." From the edge of the courtyard, a figure appeared. The elder son had returned from the fields. He stood in the doorway, watching, listening. He said nothing. In their tradition, the older brother should speak. He should step forward, calm things down, defend the father's honor. But he did not move. His face remained stone. His arms stayed folded. The silence stretched like a wound. Finally, the father rose. His legs felt weak. His chest felt hollow. He looked at his younger son one more time, searching for doubt, for hesitation, for any sign this was not real. He found nothing.
Then it is yours.
He turned and walked into the house. He did not weep, not yet. The father counted the coins himself. He sat alone in his room, dividing silver and gold into piles with trembling hands. Each coin represented something. A harvest survived, a drought endured, a year of labor under the hot sun. He placed them in a leather bag and felt the weight of a lifetime in his palms. When the counting was finished, he called his son. "Sit with me, son, before you go." The son hesitated, then sat. The father held the bag between them, but did not let go. Not yet.
Let me pray for you.
Father? That's not.
Reese.
The son fell silent. The father placed his hand on the boy's head.
May the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face shine upon you. May he bring you safely home.
His voice broke on the last word. He pressed the bag into his son's hands. Their fingers touched for a moment. The son pulled away first. The next morning came gray and cold. Fog hung over the hills, hiding the road that led away from home. The younger son moved quickly. He did not stop at his mother's portrait. He did not look into his father's room. At the gate, the father waited, silent still, like a man watching his own heart walk away.
Goodbye, Father.
He turned and walked into the fog. He did not look back, not once. The father stayed at the gate until long after his son had vanished. That evening, the elder son returned from the fields and found 3 plates set at the table. Then he said he made his choice. He removed the 3rd plate himself and sat down to eat in silence. The father could not touch his food. Later that night, alone in his room, he finally allowed himself to break. He fell to his knees and wept, deep, shaking sobs that no one else could hear. The next morning, before the sun rose fully, he walked to the gate. He stood where the road began and looked toward the horizon. He would return to this spot every morning for months, watching, waiting, just in case today was the day his son came home. The city rose from the horizon like a dream made of stone. The younger son had never seen anything like it. Towering walls, crowded streets, music spilling from every doorway. The air smelled of roasted meat, exotic spices, and possibility. He stood at the gates with his bag of coins and smiled. This is it. This is the life I was made for. He rented a house in a wealthy district. He bought robes of purple and crimson. He threw open his doors and strangers poured in, drawn by the smell of free wine and the rumor of a young man with money to burn. One man came more than the others. His name was Marcus, a merchant's son with quick eyes and an easy laugh. He was always first to arrive and last to leave.
You know how to live. Most men your age waste away on their father's farms. But you understand that life is meant to be enjoyed.
The son liked hearing this. It made the knot in his chest loosen. One evening, a servant handed him a letter. He recognized his father's handwriting, slow, careful, familiar. He threw it into the fire without opening it. The parties grew louder. One night, the crowd lifted cups and chanted his name. He stood at the center of it all, surrounded by laughter, drowning in praise. But when no one was looking, he stepped onto the balcony and stared at the sky. The stars looked the same here, but they felt farther away. He shook off the feeling and returned to the noise. Walking home from a banquet days later, he passed a beggar slumped against a wall, filthy, hollow-eyed, hand outstretched.
Please, sir. Anything.
The son laughed and tossed a coin at the man's feet.
Get up and work, like everyone else.
He walked on without looking back, unaware he was staring at his own future. His coin purse grew lighter each week. He did not notice.
The coins ran out faster than he expected. One morning he reached into his bag and found only a handful of silver. He stared at it, confused. There had been so much. Where had it all gone? He sold his furniture first, then the fine robes. Each sale bought a few more days, a few more nights of pretending nothing had changed. But everything had changed. The guests stopped coming. The music faded. The people who had chanted his name now passed him on the street without a glance. Then the famine struck. It swept through the land without warning. Crops withering, wells drying up, bread becoming more precious than gold. The city that had glittered with abundance turned desperate overnight. The younger son searched for Marcus. He found him outside a tavern, wearing new rings, laughing with men the son had never seen.
Marcus, I need help. Just enough to get through the week. You know I'm good for it.
Marcus turned. His eyes moved slowly over the son's worn clothes, hollow cheeks, desperate face.
I'm sorry. Do I know you?
The son's stomach dropped.
It's me. I gave you everything when you needed it. You said you'd never forget.
Marcus shrugged and turned back to his friends.
You must have me confused with someone else.
The door closed. Laughter echoed from inside. The son stood alone in the street, shaking. He knocked on other doors that night. People who had eaten his food, drunk his wine, called him brother. Every door closed. Every face turned away. That night he slept outside for the first time. The stones were cold against his back. His stomach ached with emptiness. The city he had loved no longer knew his name. Hunger drove him out of the city. He walked from farm to farm begging for work. Most turned him away. Too many desperate men, not enough jobs. Finally, a farmer looked him over with cold eyes.
Can you feed pigs?
The son froze. Pigs, unclean animals, everything his father had taught him, everything his people believed, told him this was the lowest work a man could do. A Jewish man did not touch pigs. To feed them was to become an outcast. But his stomach twisted with emptiness. His hands trembled.
Yes, I can feed pigs.
The farmer pointed toward a muddy pen at the edge of his land, far from the house.
Sleep with them. Feed them. I'll sing scraps when I remember.
He did not remember often. Days blurred into weeks. The son lived in the filth, sleeping in mud, waking to the stench of waste and rot. Flies covered everything. The pigs shoved past him as though he did not exist. His ribs pressed against his skin, his robes once purple and crimson, were now brown with mud and things he could not name. One evening, he poured carob pods into the trough and watched the pigs devour them. His stomach screamed, his mouth watered. Slowly, he knelt beside the trough and reached toward the slop. His hand trembled over the food. Am I really going to eat what pigs refuse to finish? He caught his reflection in a puddle of filthy water. Hollow eyes, sunken cheeks. A stranger stared back at him. What have I become? He pulled his hand back and sat in the mud, knees drawn to his chest. The pigs grunted around him, unaware of his existence. He had never felt so alone. That night, he looked up. The stars were the same ones his father had taught him to count on the rooftop all those years ago. He could almost hear the old man's voice. When you feel lost, look up. They will always lead you home. Home. The word pierced through the numbness like a blade. He buried his face in his filthy hands and wept, not for what he had lost, but for what he had thrown away. He did not sleep that night. He sat in the mud, staring at the stars, while the pigs snored around him. The memory of his father's voice would not leave. They will always lead you home. At dawn, he heard something that broke him. A farmer in the distance was calling for his child. The voice carried across the fields. Warm, worried, full of love.
Son, where are you? Come home.
The younger son's chest seized. He could not breathe. He could not move. The voice sounded so much like his father's that for one mad moment, he thought it was real. It wasn't, but the longing it awoke was. How many of my father's servants have food to spare, and here I am, starving to death. The thought cut through everything. The shame, the fear, the pride that had kept him paralyzed. It was not just logic. It was desperation. It was the last thread of hope he had left. He could die here, alone, forgotten. The farmer might find his body in a week. He would be buried in an unmarked grave, and no one would mourn him, or he could go home, not as a son. He had thrown that away, but maybe his father would let him work. Sleep with the servants, earn his bread like any hired hand. It was more than he deserved. He rose slowly, his legs shook. His body was weak. But something else had awakened, faint, fragile, flickering. Hope.
I will go to my father.
He looked toward the east, toward home, and took his first step. Then another. He did not look back at the pigs. The journey took many days. He walked without sandals. They had worn through long ago. Sharp stones cut his feet. The sun burned his cracked skin. He begged for scraps at farmhouses along the way. Some gave. Most did not. That evening, he rested beside a well. An old woman sat nearby, clutching an empty bowl. Her hands shook. Her eyes were hollow with hunger. He reached into his bag and found his last piece of bread. Stale, hard, barely enough for one. He thought of the beggar he had mocked in the city, the coin thrown at his feet, the laughter. He broke the bread in two and placed half in the woman's hands.
Bless you, son. May God bring you safely home.
He could not speak. He only nodded. On the final morning, he climbed a familiar hill and saw it. The estate, the olive groves, the house where he had counted stars on the rooftop. His legs trembled, his heart pounded. What if he refuses to see me? He almost turned back, but the old woman's blessing echoed in his mind. He forced his feet forward, down the hill, toward the gate. He did not know that his father had already seen him. Every morning for months, the father had walked to the gate. Rain or shine, hot or cold. Before the sun rose fully, he stood where the road began, eyes fixed on the horizon. The elder son refused to speak of it. But every day, without fail, the old man returned to his post. This morning was no different. He stood with one hand on the wooden gate, the other shielding his eyes from the early light. His lips moved in the same prayer he had whispered every day since his son left. Bring him home. Please, bring him home. And then he saw him. A figure in the distance, limping, ragged, so thin it looked like a ghost. The father's breath stopped. His hand gripped the gate until his knuckles turned white. He squinted against the light, afraid to believe, afraid to hope. But he knew that walk, even broken, even barely standing. He knew his son. Something burst inside his chest. Not anger, not judgment, just love, fierce and wild. And the father did what no dignified man would ever do. He ran. An old man sprinting down the road like a child, arms open wide, tears already streaming down his face. Servants stopped and stared. This was not how elders behaved, but love has never cared for dignity. The son looked up and saw him coming. He froze. Fear flooded his face. He's running to strike me, to curse me, to turn me away. He braced himself for the blow. It never came. The father reached him and threw his arms around his filthy, pig-smelling son. He pulled him so close he could feel the bones beneath the skin. He buried his face in his son's neck and wept. The way he had wept alone in his room all those months ago, but louder now, without shame. The son stood rigid, unable to move. Then his legs buckled. He collapsed into his father's arms, trembling.
Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your...
Bring the best robe, quickly!
The son blinked. The father turned to the servants who had followed him down the road, his voice ringing with joy.
Put a ring on his finger, sandals on his feet. Kill the fattened calf! We will have a feast! We will celebrate!
The son tried to speak again, but no words came. The speech he had rehearsed for days dissolved like mist. The father took his son's face in both hands.
My son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and now is found.
The sun broke. The walls crumbled, and for the first time since he had left home, he wept in his father's arms. Not from shame, not from fear, but from the unbearable weight of being loved when he deserved nothing. The servants brought basins of warm water. They knelt before the son and washed his feet, cracked, bleeding, caked with the dust of 100 miles. They washed his hands, his arms, his face. The filth of the pig pen swirled away, brown and muddy, carrying with it the shame of everything he had done. He sat motionless, letting them work. Tears slid down his clean cheeks. When they finished, his father took his hand and led him inside, past the courtyard, down the familiar hallway, to a door he had not seen in what felt like a lifetime. His old room. Everything was exactly as he had left it. His childhood blanket folded on the bed. A wooden toy his father had carved for him. The small stone from the field he used to carry in his pocket.
You kept it. All of it.
I never stopped believing you would come home.
The son covered his face and wept. That evening, the courtyard overflowed with music and laughter. Torches flickered against the night sky. Neighbors gathered, servants danced, the smell of roasted meat filled the air. But the son did not sit idle. He moved among the guests, filling cups, serving bread, the way a servant would, the way he had planned to ask his father to let him live. An old servant stopped him, confused.
Young master, you don't have to do this. You're the guest of honor.
I know, but I want to.
Later that night, alone on the rooftop, he looked up at the stars, the same sky, but he was not the same. He folded his hands and bowed his head. For the first time since he had left, he prayed. The elder son heard the music from the fields. He had worked since dawn, as he did every day. Now, walking home as the sun set, he heard singing, laughter, celebration. He grabbed a passing servant.
What is this? Your brother has come home. Your father has killed a fattened calf for him.
The elder son's face hardened. He walked to the edge of the courtyard and stopped. Through the doorway, he saw the torches, the dancing, his brother wearing the finest robe in the house. He could not make himself enter. The father came outside and found him standing in the darkness.
Come inside. Join us.
Years of buried pain erupted.
I have slaved for you my entire life, and you never gave me even a goat to celebrate with my friends. But this son of yours, who wasted everything, he comes back, and you slaughter the fattened calf for him?
This son of yours, not my brother. The words revealed everything. The father stepped closer. His voice was gentle, patient.
My son, you are always with me. Everything I have is yours.
He gestured toward the glowing courtyard.
But we had to celebrate. We had to rejoice. Because your brother was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.
The elder son said nothing. The music played on. The door remained open. The story ends with a question unanswered. Did the elder son go inside? Did he join the celebration? Did he embrace his brother? We are not told, perhaps because the answer depends on us. This parable was never about two lost sons. It was about a waiting father, a father who counted coins with trembling hands and gave them anyway. A father who stood at the gate every morning, scanning the horizon, hoping today would be the day. A father who ran, dignity forgotten, the moment he saw his child coming home. This is the heart of God, not a judge waiting to condemn, not a king demanding payment, but a father, arms open, eyes searching, ready to run. Maybe you have been the youngest son. You left. You chased something that promised freedom and delivered emptiness. You wonder if it's too late to turn around. It is not too late. Maybe you have been the elder son. You stayed, you obeyed, but somewhere along the way, your heart grew cold. You served out of duty, not love. The father came outside for him too. Whoever you are, wherever you have been, the door is still open, the stars still shine, and the Father is still watching. You don't have to be clean first. You only have to turn around. When you do, He will run to meet you. Come home. If this story touched your heart, please like, share,